Between alphas, nature dictates an inherent aversion. Yet, I have been hopelessly infatuated with Lin Yujing and Alpha for many years. When the Lin family encountered a crisis, I poured my resources into aiding them through their tribulations, all the while imposing conditions that coerced Lin Yujing into an arranged marriage with me. Years of unrequited longing suddenly materialized into reality. Yet, even if I could pluck the moon from its lofty branch, I would not dare to reach for it. However, the Lin Yujing, whom I regarded as my celestial moon, upon discovering my search for a highly compatible omega for comfort due to my pheromonal disarray, unveiled his true self and shackled me to the room with an iron chain. Do you fancy omegas? He inquired. Then allow me to exert myself to transform you into my omega. Shall we? 1. At the stroke of midnight, the screen of the phone on the table illuminated, revealing a reminder of our wedding anniversary. I cast the dice, casually extinguished the screen, and tucked the phone back into my pocket. A faint fragrance wafted through my nostrils, pulling my thoughts back as a beautiful and obedient omega brought a wine glass to my lips. I realized then that I was the loser in this game, destined for a penalty drink. I accepted the cup, sipping from the youth's hand, slightly tilting my head to evade his subsequent gesture. At that moment, the door to the private room was pushed open. I glanced up to see a tall figure, smiling as he engaged in conversation with the birthday celebrant. The flickering lights accentuated his striking profile, exquisite and eye-catching. It was none other than Lin Yujing, my nominal wife, whom I had not seen in many days. Throughout his life, he had always been the center of attention. Even in his misfortunes, countless individuals were eager to lend a hand, and indeed, I had stumbled upon a fortunate opportunity. As he conversed, his gaze seemed to drift just beyond the crowd, inching toward me, but primarily landing on the youth beside me. Stung by that gaze, I regained my composure and shifted slightly forward to obscure the boy's presence. After 2 years of marriage, we had tacitly maintained a facade of a relationship, choosing not to disturb each other. I could tolerate his distant politeness toward me, yet I could not abide his seemingly preferential treatment toward others. 2. Lin Yujing had been on a business trip out of town for some time, and according to his itinerary, he was supposed to return to City A tomorrow afternoon. Yet, for some unknown reason, he had hurried back, weary from travel. Before I could ponder further, the door swung open once more. Apologies, my flight was delayed, he said. I turned to the source of the voice and beheld a familiar silhouette. My mind buzzed, and the hand reaching for the wine glass froze in place. No wonder Lin Yujing, who was typically a workaholic, had suddenly altered his schedule to rush back to City A. Turned out today was also the day of his first love, Fong Jishu's return. Fong Jishu quickly became the new focal point, embraced by the crowd alongside Lin Yujing. The beautiful and accomplished omega had shed the innocence of youth, appearing even more striking. Together with Lin Yujing, whose profile was only partially visible, they seemed perfectly matched. The two took a seat in another corner. I averted my gaze and downed my second drink of the night. The omega beside me, noticing my action, eagerly refilled my glass. It was then that I took a proper look at him. With soft chestnut hair and a delicate, attractive face, his movements carried a hint of endearment without being obsequious. Indeed, he was more appealing than an alpha. It seems that Mr. Shun has taken a particular liking to this omega tonight, someone who was unaware of my relationship with Lin Yujing teased. The comment, neither too loud nor too soft, drew several gazes our way. I sipped my drink and calmly remarked, quick and perceptive. You should rein in your professional habits, my friend chided playfully. Are you here for an interview? I merely smiled in response, and the topic swiftly shifted. As my gaze wandered, I inadvertently locked eyes with Lin Yujing's expressionless gaze, causing an inexplicable flutter in my heart. 3. After the event concluded, Lin Yujing departed alongside Fong Jishu. Naturally, encountering an old flame after a long separation meant there was much to reminisce. I let out a self-deprecating smile and aimlessly walked in the other direction. The earlier omega timidly followed behind. I halted and succinctly conveyed that I held no excessive interest in him. One would expect him to take the hint and depart. Yet emboldened by some unknown courage, he entangled me further. Mr. Shen, I'm quite obedient in other respects. The slight intoxication dulled my thoughts, and it took me a moment to grasp the implication of his words. Frowning slightly, I was about to refuse him again when Lin Yujing emerged from around the corner. His expression was indifferent, yet his words carried a subtle harshness. What's this, Mr. Shun? Planning to stay here tonight? The title Mr. Shun momentarily quelled the subtle delight I felt at Lin Yujing's return. I shook my head. No. Then shall we leave together? It's difficult to find a designated driver at this hour. Leave together? I was taken aback and instinctively voiced my question. What about Fong Jishu? Lin Yujing furrowed his brow in slight confusion but answered truthfully. I just arranged for the driver to take him home. That made sense. By his moral standards, he wouldn't engage in infidelity within marriage. However, are you driving yourself? I queried, perplexed. Haven't you had a drink? No, he replied, a cryptic smile gracing his lips. There's no one around to serve me drinks. That smile disoriented me, causing my head to spin slightly. Without probing further into his unusual demeanor, I instinctively followed him out of the club. For once in the car, I was enveloped by the familiar scent of his pheromones. Perhaps due to the alcohol, I rarely allowed myself to indulge in the sensation. Do you remember what day it is today? Lin Yujing suddenly inquired. Assuming it was a means to gauge my sobriety, I hesitated before answering. It's Su Sun's birthday. As soon as the words left my mouth, the previously gentle pheromones in the air sharpened abruptly. My body stiffened in response. Was he attempting to flaunt the return of his white moonlight? Just as I was about to inquire, I noticed Lin Yujing slightly turning away, clearly unwilling to continue the conversation. A pang of disappointment struck me, and the notification from earlier surfaced in my mind. Today, in truth, marked the second anniversary of my marriage to Lin Yujing, if one were to calculate from this moment. 5. The journey was silent. Upon returning home, we each retreated to our respective rooms. Due to our differing schedules and the Alpha S aversion to similar pheromones post-marriage, I had proactively suggested sleeping apart. Lin Yujing had regarded me quietly for a moment before apathetically accepting the proposal. In the 2 years since, although we lived under the same roof, we were more akin to acquaintances than to a couple. After completing my evening routine, I had barely settled into bed when there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Lin Yujing in loungewear holding a bowl. The soft glow of the corridor lights cast a gentle radiance on him, adding an uncharacteristic tenderness to his demeanor. I've made you some hangover soup. Be careful of a headache in the morning. The figure before me seemed like a dream, and his gentle words felt almost enchanting. I reached out to take the bowl, momentarily dazed. Thank you. Lin Yujing smiled faintly. Aren't you going to drink it while it's hot? Oh yes. I snapped back to reality and obediently drank the entire bowl of soup. Lin Yujing took the empty bowl, and his eyes, now filled with a deeper meaning, remarked, very obedient. I was momentarily stunned by his praise, and by the time I regained my senses, Lin Yujing had already walked away. Even in our nominal partnership, his attentiveness and responsibility were striking. I lay back down, internally contrasting Lin Yujing's kindness with my own petty actions, feeling both miserable and tormented. Yet, before I could delve deeper into my thoughts, the world before me began to blur, and soon I drifted into a drowsy slumber. 6. As consciousness ebbed and flowed, I dreamt of many past events. In high school, Lin Yujing was exceptional in both academics and appearance, always surrounded by admiration. As someone who had always lived in his shadow, I was often compared to him by my parents. Over time, I developed a certain regard for him, my gaze unconsciously following him. After gazing up for so long, I unknowingly became one of his many admirers. By that time, we had both undergone our transformations, and I was aware that a relationship between two alphas would yield no fruitful outcome. Moreover, he had Fong Jishu by his side. They were well-matched in family background, shared interests, and their appearances were perfectly complementary. I had heard that their pheromone compatibility was exceptionally high. They were indeed a match made in heaven. Thus, I maintained a distant yet watchful gaze upon him, daring not to overstep even by the slightest measure. After graduating from high school, the scant communication we shared was severed completely. Upon our next encounter, the once exalted prodigy had fallen from grace, and my former lover had vanished without a trace. There were both those who mocked and those who extended a helping hand. I undoubtedly belonged to the latter, the most insatiable among them. Leveraging the support from his family, I manipulated circumstances to bind him to me in marriage. A perverse inclination towards kindred spirits, coupled with a greedy desire to ensnare him in my depths, revealed my utter lack of shame. Lost in reverie, my thoughts still entwined with the past, I seemed to sense someone lifting my covers. This person nestled into the crook of my neck, as if savoring my unique pheromones. Their warm breath danced along my neck, sending a tingling sensation coursing through me, prompting an involuntary shift. They seized my wrist, tilting their heads slightly, and playfully nipped at me, a gesture laden with warning. The familiar scent enveloped me. Though undeniably an alpha's pheromone, it rendered me dizzy with longing. Instinctively, I acquiesced. Their touch was teasing, akin to the playful handling of a cherished object. I found myself breathless, yet paradoxically comforted, letting out a soft sigh. Noticing the shift in my body, they chuckled softly, so sensitive to my touch. Could it be that you harbor feelings for an omega? This dreamscape was both absurd and achingly real, yet the identity of its protagonist lured me deeper into its embrace. Upon awakening, I rubbed my throbbing temples and glanced at my phone. It was already 11 in the morning. My once strict biological clock, honed since youth, inexplicably faltered today. After a brief wash, I descended the stairs, intending to prepare myself a meal. As I reached the foot of the stairs, I spotted Lin Yujing in the living room, absorbed in adjusting his watch. I blinked slowly, trying to ascertain whether this scene was a mere figment of my imagination. Lin Yujing seemed to sense my presence and looked up. "You're awake." Meeting his gaze, I awkwardly fidgeted with the hem of my pajamas. Yes. After this brief exchange, the atmosphere thickened with an uncomfortable silence. "I have some matters to attend to and will be stepping out shortly," Lin Yujing announced. The joy I had felt upon seeing him began to wane. While we were unlikely to celebrate any so-called wedding anniversary, simply being in his presence on this special day was enough to fill me with quiet delight. Yet, my hopes always seemed destined to be dashed. I longed to call out to him, but was at a loss for words or justifications. Thus, I could only respond dryly, "All right." Watching his retreating figure, I forced myself to suppress the bitterness rising within me. I must not overreach. I must not harbor expectations. I silently admonished myself once more. With no desire for breakfast and lacking the habit of returning to sleep, I sat numbly on the sofa, lost in thought. The dizziness from earlier returned, and I felt a pervasive heat coursing through my body. I must be running a high fever. I suffer from severe pheromone disorder, and such fevers were commonplace for me. I rummaged through my medications and took 2 pills, but for some inexplicable reason, they lacked their usual efficacy. After consuming a triple dose with no improvement, I called my friend, who is also a doctor. He hurried over, finding me fainted in the living room, and swiftly transported me to the hospital. Awakening again, I was uncertain how much time had elapsed. Upon seeing me conscious, Su-chun leaned in to check my forehead. Memories of my fainting spell rushed back, and I thanked him, taking so many pills at once. "It's a wonder you still had the strength to call for help." He scoffed. "Next time, just call the funeral home. That would expedite the process." I smiled wryly. "Perhaps you could recommend one?" He shot me a disapproving glance. "No more jokes. If you let this illness drag on, I can't guarantee you'll see 30. I calculated quietly in my mind. Perhaps before I reached 30, this hollow marriage with Lin Yujing would come to an end. "That may not be so bad," I replied lightly. "It would spare me 2 more years of suffering." Su-chen's expression sobered as he grasped my collar, his teeth clenching audibly. "What nonsense are you spouting?" After a moment of silence, he straightened up and asked abruptly, I heard Fong Jishu has returned to the country?" My throat tightened. "Yes." Su-chun paused before continuing. "If they were to rekindle their romance, you should consider your own well-being, all right? Even my own friend believed they would reunite." A dull ache settled in my chest. I steadied myself, lowering my gaze to listen as he spoke. "I know Su-chun does not hold much significance in your heart, and I cannot make you yearn for me. But even if I plead, could you not find a sliver of compassion for yourself?" I repressed my feigned lightheartedness, sighing, "Su-chun, you are my dear friend of many years. You are not insignificant." After a prolonged silence, I acquiesced. "Very well, I will accept your treatment plan." After all, I needed to survive to contemplate anything else. Observing Su-chen's visible elation at my response, I began to contemplate that perhaps this was indeed the right decision. As if fearing I would retract my agreement, Su-chun swiftly arranged a meeting with an omega who had a high compatibility with me. The omega moved with a gentle grace, slender as bamboo, with serene brows and eyes that curved slightly upward, holding a hint of playful mirth. As he approached, he introduced himself. "President Shin, hello, I am Wenjia." His demeanor was neither subservient nor arrogant, exuding a warm quality subtly tinged with the confidence of one accustomed to high status. I assessed him discreetly, responding, "A pleasure to meet you." Clearly, such a person would not agree to aid me merely for monetary gain. The prospect of a stranger learning of my hidden affliction loomed large. My eyelids fluttered. What a considerable inconvenience. I shot Su-chen a sidelong glance. He, sensing my apprehension, cleared his throat awkwardly. "Let's proceed with the tests first." After some preliminary examinations, we began discussing the treatment details. The scope of treatment was broad, primarily involving the soothing of omega pheromones, including but not limited to embraces, kisses, and even marking. Wenjia smiled. "I am open to all. It merely depends on President Shen's needs. I smiled back, no marking. Simple physical contact will suffice for treatment. As for compensation, I lightly tapped the rim of my cup. Mr. One, please speak candidly. I have always preferred straightforwardness. Fong Jishu has returned to the country. One just stated without hesitation. I wish to secure a position within the Fong family to avoid being cast out. It dawned on me then. He was seemingly the stepson of the Fong family, nominally the brother of Fong Jishu. I had heard rumors of discord between the two siblings, which explained his concerns. Fong Jishu had entangled himself with Lin Yujing, while his brother was now seeking my assistance. How intriguingly complex. I lowered my gaze and took a sip of tea, acquiescing. After finalizing the arrangements, I drove Wenjia home before heading back myself. Arriving home, it was nearly midnight. I was uncertain whether Lin Yujing had returned, but considering his usual habits, I slowed my movements. After changing into my slippers, I quietly made my way inside. Turning on the living room light, I was momentarily taken aback by the sight before me. The person I had been preoccupied with earlier was now reclining on the sofa, still in the same clothes he had worn earlier, as if he had never left. Yet, there remains a distinction. At his feet lay a large bouquet of roses. The blossoms were no longer fresh, and there was a faint hint of wilting. They must have been received a few hours prior. I paused in my tracks, forming a silent judgment in my mind. He glanced at me sideways and inquired, "Back already?" I nodded, making a concerted effort to disregard the ambiguous roses, and responded succinctly, as I usually did, "Yes, I'll head upstairs." However, my mind incessantly speculated about whom he had met today. Could it have been Song Hui? In an attempt to avoid any display of emotion, I awkwardly quickened my pace toward the stairs, eager to distance myself from the scene. I'm quite curious. What kind of work keeps President Shin so busy on a weekend? Lin Yujing asked, unusually inquisitive. I could not ignore his question, nor would I confess that I had visited the hospital today. Thus I replied, "It's not work. I was meeting a friend." He rose and leaned in slightly, as if trying to discern something. After a lengthy pause, he finally asked, "A very important friend?" Sensing something amiss in his demeanor today, I nonetheless nodded in affirmation. Lin Yujing chuckled lightly, a fleeting shadow of irritation crossing his eyes. Without uttering another word, he turned and strode upstairs with purpose. I suppressed my confusion and swiftly returned to my room. As I drifted into slumber, the peculiar dream from the previous night returned, but this time the actions of the other party were more aggressive, tinged with a sense of punishment. "You reek of an unfamiliar omega-S pheromones. I am quite eager to know when you acquired this important friend." Upon waking, I found a solitary message in the pin chat. "On a business trip back in 3 days." It was a rather formulaic notification. To an unknowing observer, our conversations might suggest a mere colleague relationship. Yet, the reality of our connection was hardly more intimate than that. Recently, Lin Yujing had become increasingly occupied, and his frequency of business trips had escalated sharply. Our last encounter at a friend's birthday party marked the first time we had seen each other in nearly a month. After reading that message again, it suddenly struck me. Was he working so hard to escape me? When the Lin family company teetered on the brink of bankruptcy, it was my funding and collaboration that had allowed it to survive. Now, under Lin Yujing's stewardship for barely 2 years, there were already signs of a resurgence reminiscent of its former glory. This relationship, sustained by financial means, was likely nearing its conclusion. Lost in thought, Su Chun sent me a screenshot of Fong Jishu's moments. "Looks like he went to tell his uncle and aunt on you. Lin Yujing has been squeezing me lately, and now he's behaving himself." The accompanying image showed him dining with the Lin family. The spread of dishes was lavish, a treatment I had never experienced. When we had just married, Lin Yujing had courteously taken me to meet his family. At the dinner table, although Mr. and Mrs. Lin hid their discontent behind polite facades, I could still sense their subtle disdain. As I was leaving, I inadvertently overheard Mrs. Lin inquiring whether Lin Yujing had any intentions of divorce. He had answered calmly, "I will consider it once the company stabilizes." "That's good." Mrs. Lin had sighed in relief, adding, "He has indeed helped our family. Remember to compensate him generously when the time comes." "I will." I did not desire compensation. I longed for Lin Yujing's affection. Alas, such thoughts were likely to remain mere fantasies for the rest of my life. That day I fled in distress. From then on, during holidays, I used busyness as an excuse and never returned to the Lin household. Regaining my focus, I lowered my gaze once more to the photos on my phone. The individuals in the images were joyously gathered, the atmosphere warm and inviting. Even Lin Yujing, who usually regarded me with indifference, bore a faint smile in his eyes. Su-chun then messaged, just a friendly reminder. Having met the parents, these two might be reconciling soon. It's time to cut your losses. Cut my losses? I seemed to always inch further into the abyss. Yet, perhaps cutting my losses was indeed the more prudent choice. Gazing at the cheerful assembly in the photograph, I found myself contemplating divorce for the first time in our 2-year marriage. Previously, I had intended to cling on until Lin Yujing expressed the desire to end our union. Now, I wished to preserve a semblance of dignity for myself. I was not one to procrastinate. With this thought in mind, I promptly sought a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. In the afternoon, I sent Lin Yujing the electronic version of the agreement I had prepared. I consulted a lawyer to draft a divorce agreement. Please review it and feel free to propose any additional conditions. If everything is satisfactory, I will send you the hard copy for your signature at your convenience. Having maintained a fade of vigor throughout the day, I collapsed onto my bed after sending the message, awaiting his reply. However, after several hours, Lin Yujing had not responded. Perhaps he was too preoccupied with the company of a beautiful woman to notice. I switched off my phone, intending to retire for the night. Yet, the heat of the sensitive period struck me unexpectedly, swift and fierce. I messaged Su-chun to arrange for an earlier treatment. Mustering my strength, I hurriedly donned my clothes and stepped outside. Su-chun was quick. Soon, he had secured an appointment for me. Under normal circumstances, I would hardly have been fit to go out in my current state, but I preferred not to invite anyone into my home. Su-chun, unable to sway my decision, resigned himself to reminding me to take appropriate measures for suppression. To avoid any complications en route, the treatment location was booked near my residence. Even so, upon arrival, it was evident that the two had been waiting for a while. I apologize for the delay, I said. Enough of that, Su-chun interjected, supporting me. Your life is on the line, and you're still apologizing? He swiftly administered the suppressants, quietly releasing pheromones to soothe me. Su-chun hesitated momentarily before advising, if it becomes unbearable, don't hesitate to seek physical contact. Don't force yourself. I nodded in acknowledgement. After Su-chun finished his instructions, he exited the room. I fought against the instinct of an alpha faced with a highly compatible omega, striving to suppress my restlessness. Observing my struggle, Wenjia spoke gently, I am open to temporary marking. I shook my head, no need. He smiled knowingly. President Shin truly upholds his principles. I conceded that, at this moment, my reluctance to engage with Wenjia was, indeed, influenced by my regard for Lin Yujing. However, I doubted that Wenjia would mind in the slightest. I closed my eyes, choosing not to respond. After approximately half an hour, my pheromones gradually stabilized. Su-chun, exasperated, reiterated the precautions before leaving without a backward glance. I secured the suppressor on my wrist and turned to exit. Upon reaching the ground floor, I spotted Wenjia, who had departed with Su-chun, waiting by the roadside. Is there something you need? I continued walking. Wenjia smiled. I would like to discuss compensation with President Shin. What do you need from me? The Fong family is hosting a banquet next week, and I hope President Shin can attend as my partner. Next week. Lin Yujing had likely already reviewed the divorce agreement by now, and we should be free of our marital ties by then. With this thought, I nodded in agreement. Wenjia thanked me and departed in his car. The distance to my home was short, so I chose to walk back. The cool evening breeze brushed against my face, dispelling the oppressive heat of the summer night, yet it could not alleviate the dull ache in my heart. Just as I approached my doorstep, my steps faltered. The person who occupied my every thought suddenly appeared before me. Lin Yujing remained silent, his gaze fixed intently upon me. A chill ran through my heart as I inquired, "What are you doing here? Am I not allowed to be here?" Lin Yujie retorted coldly, "Or perhaps you ought to first explain why you are infused with omega pheromones." Fong Jishu seemingly materialized from nowhere, raising an eyebrow at this, clearly eager to witness the unfolding drama. Lin Yujie cast him a sidelong glance, his expression darkening. Fong Jishu stifled his amusement, leaning closer to me and addressing me with a casual sister-in-law. He barely finished his sentence when he suddenly faltered, his expression shifting drastically. "The pheromones on you." He must have recognized his brother's scent. A slight sheen of sweat broke out on my palms as I grappled with how to explain. Should I confess to my ailment? Wenjia. Before I could arrive at a decision, Fong Jishu spoke softly, his calm voice seemingly concealing a tempest of fury. Lin Yujie stepped forward, positioning himself protectively in front of me. "Mind your own people." Fong Jishu spat out these words with palpable resentment before turning on his heel and departing. I was left bewildered, unable to grasp the current situation. Yet it was evident he intended to confront Wenjia. After all, he was here to assist me with my treatment. It would be unreasonable for him to bear the brunt of his brother's inexplicable wrath. I attempted to stop Fong Zhishu, but Lin Yujie forcefully pulled me back. You can barely look after yourself, and yet you have the time to worry about others? Upon entering the room, I was shoved onto the bed. Lin Yujie loomed over me, the stark white light casting shadows across his face, revealing a faint hint of darkness in his eyes. An inexplicable chill coursed through me, prompting me to instinctively shrink back. Yet Lin Yujie suddenly turned aggressive, seizing my ankle and dragging me back toward him. How dare you mention divorce? He leaned closer, overpowering me with a wave of pheromones that left me dizzy. Wait! I raised my hand to push him away. Please don't come near me. My condition had only just begun to ease. I couldn't withstand such provocation. Lin Yujie restrained me once more, silencing me with something pressed against my mouth, and hissed in my ear, "You sneak off to see an omega behind my back, yet refuse to let me touch you? Why did you come to me if you cannot accept an alpha? Do you fancy omega, then? Yes. Then allow me my efforts to transform you into my omega. Shall we?" I awoke from a parched slumber, my head throbbing fiercely, and the glands at the nape of my neck inflamed and swollen. Instinctively, I reached to touch them, only to be met with a sharp pain. Supporting myself, I searched for the source of my distress. Just then, the hollow room echoed with the sound of polished shoes striking the wooden floor. Each step reverberated like a hammer on my heart, which was already racing with trepidation. The sound approached deliberately, as if taunting a trapped prey. Lin Yujie appeared at the bedside. His demeanor transformed from the previous night's hostility to one of tender concern, as he brought a glass of water to my lips with a gentle smile. "Thirsty? Are we? Here, let me feed you." "No, I can manage on my own," I croaked, instinctively rejecting his offer. Lin Yujie's expression darkened as he evaded my hand, insisting, "I told you I would feed you." This time, he did not wait for my compliance. He forcefully pressed the rim of the cup against my lips, pouring the water into my mouth. I struggled to swallow, the liquid trickling down my chin and soaking my shirt. "What a pity, all wasted," he remarked, a phrase that echoed a particular moment from the previous night, igniting warmth in my cheeks. As the cup was withdrawn, I scarcely had time to catch my breath before he yanked my hair, forcing my head back. My lower lip was bitten hard, nearly drawing blood, though it was quickly released. I let out a muffled sound of pain, pushing him away in irritation. Lin Yujie paused, straightening himself, returning to his composed demeanor, and offered me an apology. "I lost my composure last night. Indeed, alphas should not disregard reason and force a union." My throat, now somewhat soothed by the water, allowed me to croak out a question. "What? I agree to your proposal for divorce." Lin Yujie towered over me, announcing his decision. Following last night's events, he had confirmed the inherent repulsion between alphas, and was prepared to leave with nonchalance. A sense of desolation washed over me, and I trembled, yet my voice was resolute. "Very well, remember to sign the papers." His choice to depart was not motivated by any affection for Fong Zhishu. What lay between us was the insurmountable chasm created by our shared alpha nature. I felt powerless to salvage it, nor did I wish to. This is how it would be. Though I understood this clearly, I still lacked the courage to lift my gaze to his departing figure. The anticipated sound of the door closing did not resonate. I lifted my head, tears unexpectedly streaming down my face. Lin Yujie cradled my face, his cool fingertips brushing against my swollen eyelids. "Why are you crying?" I barely uttered a word before the ringing of a phone interrupted me. The screen displayed Su Chen's name. I propped myself up to reach for it, but Lin Yujie swiftly snatched it away. Anxiety surged within me. Su Chen must have called me numerous times last night. If I don't reach out, he'll worry. Lin Yujie cast a sideways glance at me, his tone matter-of-fact. "I will contact him for you." "Don't." Fearing that Su Chen might disclose my illness to Lin Yujie, I attempted to intervene, but the chain around my ankle restrained me, leaving me helplessly watching as Lin Yujie exited with my phone. It was only then that I realized a collar with an iron chain had been fastened around my ankle, the other end tethered to the bedpost. No wonder he hadn't tea left after discussing divorce. It seemed he had intended to bind me to him from the very start. But why? My body, already weary from the previous night's ordeal, was on the brink of collapse, merely holding on by sheer will. Just as I was about to succumb to unconsciousness again, Lin Yujie burst through the door, his refined features tinged with paleness. He released my shackled ankle and swiftly lifted me into his arms, striding towards the exit. Nestled against him, my mind began to fog. Just before losing consciousness, I felt a few drops of warm water land on my face. My pheromone disorder was congenital. This meant that my lifelong partner could only be an omega with a high compatibility or a beta devoid of pheromones. I had previously been without a partner, allowing this condition to lie dormant within me, unnoticed. It was not until the night of my wedding to Lin Yujie that it erupted. After returning home from the hospital following an examination, I proposed to Lin Yujie that we sleep in separate rooms. This affliction prevented me from accepting even low-matching omegas, let alone alphas. I had contemplated divorce, yet at that time, funds had just been injected into Lin's company, making it an inopportune moment for upheaval. Moreover, having ensnared Lin Yujie with such disreputable means, I felt unworthy and dared not harbor excessive thoughts regarding him. Thus, during our first year of marriage, we managed to coexist peacefully. The turmoil arose in the second year of our marriage when my symptoms inexplicably worsened. I had been searching for answers in vain. After regaining consciousness, Su-chan revealed the truth to me. Lin Yujie had disturbed my pheromones, exacerbating my condition. It dawned on me that those bizarre dreams I had experienced were, in fact, rooted in reality. You were trying to help him, yet he nearly brought you to ruin. Su-chan exclaimed in outrage beside me. What kind of person is that? I listened in silence. Yet it wasn't entirely his fault. After all, he had been unaware of my condition beforehand. However, in the midst of right and wrong, I found no one to engage in debate. Since that fateful day, Lin Yujing had vanished without a trace. I inquired of many but could not locate him. On the eve of the Fong family banquet, I dialed Wenjie. The phone rang for an eternity before it was answered. I got straight to the point, informing him that I could no longer masquerade as his partner for the event. All right then. Wenjie's voice was fragmented, hoarse to an unbearable degree. Be good. A commanding male voice interjected, and the call abruptly ended. I set down my phone and rubbed my forehead, resisting the urge to ponder the situation between Wenjie and Fong Jishu. A month later, upon returning from a follow-up at the hospital, I encountered the long-missing Lin Yujing at my doorstep. He grasped my wrist firmly. We need to talk. Once inside, I asked, about what? How is your health? His gaze was desolate. I'm sorry. I didn't know you were ill at the time. Can you forgive me? It has stabilized. I lowered my eyes. The matter of my illness was something I failed to inform you of. The fault does not lie entirely with you. Then you. His eyes sparkled with a glimmer of hope. But you are correct. It is indeed illogical for two alphas to be together. I interrupted him. Now that you are back, let us finalize the divorce agreement. His tone turned urgent. I was merely speaking out of frustration. I never truly wished to part ways with you. But this is indeed the reality, I assent. You cannot treat me like this. The corners of his eyes reddened as he trembled. You cannot abandon me. I remained silent, understanding that as long as this illness persisted, we could never truly love one another. It would be better to sever ties completely now. Tears fell, and he lowered his head to wipe them away. Following his motion, I noticed a pristine bandage encircling his neck. Why are you bandaged? I reached out to touch it. Lin Yujing flinched, retreating slightly, but his tone was unexpectedly calm and candid. It's nothing, just a gland removed. The words struck me like thunder, sending a chill down my spine. Why? Why would you do such a thing? Was it for the sake of being with me? To pay such a heavy price just to be with me? It dawned on me the depth of his feelings. Yet Lin Yujing seemed unfazed, abruptly shifting the conversation. Can we not get divorced? Clearly taken aback by my acquiescence, he stammered. It's not because I had a gland removed that you're agreeing, is it? This is my own decision. You need not bear any responsibility. If you still harbor resentment, you don't have to force yourself to agree. Lin Yujing, uncharacteristically verbose, rambled on. I smiled through my tears. No, it's not that. It wasn't because he had undergone surgery that I consented to remain married. It was because he loved me that I agreed. Because I love you. Those 3 words traversed the landscape of my youth, finally spoken by me in this moment. You and I. Lin Yujing hesitated, seemingly at a loss for words. The composed individual I knew now appeared akin to a bashful youth, pitifully seeking confirmation from me. You're not deceiving me, right? The dynamics had shifted. The one who once held the reins was now the suitor. Upon receiving my affirmative response, he could barely contain his joy. From Lin Yujing's perspective, marrying Shun-yi was akin to the financial issues my family faced, an occurrence beyond my control. To be frank, I did not recognize him initially, nor could I fathom why an alpha would seek to ally with me. I gazed into his eyes and calmly inquired about his reasoning. After he logically elucidated the pros and cons, he added, perhaps it is also out of camaraderie as former schoolmates. It was then that I recalled him from high school, a studious boy who ranked just behind me, possessing beauty but little else. There were undoubtedly better candidates for collaboration. Yet when confronted with the sincerity in his gaze as he spoke, I found myself inexplicably nodding in agreement. In hindsight, I lamented my momentary lapse in judgment that led me to agree to marry another alpha. However, once wed, I had no intentions of shirking marital duties. On the night of our wedding, I observed him, meticulously dressed yet blushing at the ears, and felt a flutter in my heart for the first time in over 20 years. Yet that night, as I sought to advance our intimacy, he suddenly fell ill with a fever, his lips turning pale. I hurriedly took him to the hospital, remaining by his side until dawn. In the early hours, I received an urgent call from my assistant. Seeing him stabilized and recognizing that his attending physician was a close friend of his, I entrusted his care to another before rushing to the company. However, upon returning home that day, he confronted me with a cold demeanor, declaring his desire to separate our living arrangements. I assumed it was simply an adjustment to married life and nodded in agreement. Yet from that moment on, his demeanor grew increasingly distant. Initially, I felt a twinge of resentment, convincing myself that this was for the best, preventing emotional entanglements that would complicate a future divorce. Yet the seed of affection I had planted began to take root in my heart, growing stronger with each encounter. For someone who seldom fell in love, it only took one instance to etch itself deeply within. Yet I was at a loss for how to proceed. I devoted myself to work, striving to equalize our relationship, hoping he would eventually acknowledge me. Externally, I maintained composure, while internally, desire burgeoned day by day, unbeknownst to him. My emotional turmoil escalated within this relationship, initially manageable, but spiraled out of control after witnessing him drink from a glass offered by a stranger Omega. He had initiated this, and now he must face the consequences. The end of the narrative. Thank you for listening. Until we meet again in the next story.